Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, today we begin a new psalm, Psalm 51. Psalm 51 is a psalm that I don't even remember the reason that I memorized back when I was in college and hid it in my heart because I realized, even as a believer, that I needed God's forgiveness. Even as a believer, I could still sin and do those things that were not pleasing in God's sight and feel the condemnation of sin upon my heart, especially after I had trusted Christ as my Savior. He had forgiven me for all of my sins, and I still could do things that did not please God, that broke God's law, and selfish, senseless sin that brought condemnation to my heart and made me ashamed before a holy God. And I needed to confess my sin. And I'm telling you, my friend, this is a psalm that helps us understand that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Yes, we need to find salvation through the blood of Christ, but we need to find cleansing as believers every day through the blood of Christ also. 1 John chapter 1:9. Well, this is the first of 15 consecutive psalms in book 2 that have been attributed to King David. And we see that in the title, To the Chief Musician, a Psalm of David, when Nathan the prophet went to him after he had gone into Bathsheba. So from the title, it's very clear for the occasion of this psalm. Now remember, David had become the king of Israel. This youngest son of David, this youngest son of Jesse, who had been keeping sheep that God called to be the next king, even when Saul was the king. And you know the story, how David killed Goliath. He became a hero with the nation. Then Saul became jealous of him, had to flee for his life for a number of years, over 7 years. And then finally the day came when Saul was killed and David was anointed king of Judah, king of the tribe of Benjamin. That's the southern tribes. And then 7 years later, he was anointed king over all of Israel and set up his kingdom there, his capital in the city of Jerusalem. And David has now, at this point when he writes this psalm, has become a well-known king. He's conquered the nations around him. But David gets a little lazy one day when kings go to war. He stayed home. He got his eyes on a little lady next door, and as he saw her bathing on the roof by the name of Bathsheba, who was the wife of one of his mighty men, Uriah, and there he invited her to the palace and committed adultery with her. A short time later, she tells him that she's pregnant, and he then tries to cover up his sin by murdering her husband, Uriah. He sends a letter with him back to the front line asking Joab to put him in the very front of the line there, what is today called the city of Ammon, Jordan, and while they were fighting these Ammonites, and then he is killed. And David actually is the one who murdered him, even though Job was a part of what happened. And it's a sad, sad story. And then for a year, David tried to cover up his sin. And God then finally sent Nathan the prophet in to tell him a story. And we'll tell that story tomorrow that Nathan the prophet told King David. But David begins this psalm, Psalm chapter 51, "Have mercy on me, O God, according to your loving kindness, according to the multitude of your tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from mine iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. Against you, and you only, have I sinned, and done this evil in your sight, that you may be found just when you speak, and blameless when you judge." And so David is confessing his sins. This is one of, I believe, 4 psalms that are called the Penitential Psalms of David. 4 psalms. Psalm 32 also is one of those. Psalm 6, as David confesses his sin. And my friend, thank God that we can come to a holy God and ask Him to forgive us and cleanse us when we've sinned and find forgiveness with the Lord. Well, so much more to say about this psalm that we'll say it over the next few days, and I trust God will use this psalm to encourage you to come back to the Lord. No matter what you've done, no matter what sin you've committed, Jesus will forgive you through His blood. God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.